Los Angeles, Sunset Boulevard. Frank Sinatra sat in a nightclub booth, empty except for him. The stage was dark. The tables around him were filling up with people who used to know his name. Used to. His voice was gone. His recording contract was canceled. His movie studio dropped him. His agent quit. And Ava Gardner, the woman he'd destroyed his marriage for, was in Spain, with a bullfighter. Sinatra was 36 years old, and finished. The waitress brought him another drink without asking. She'd been doing that for an hour. Jack Daniels. Neat. She didn't make eye contact anymore. Then someone slid into the booth across from him. Sinatra looked up. Dean Martin, tanned, relaxed. The new guy, the rising star. Everything Sinatra used to be. Dean smiled. That easy, effortless smile that made audiences love him. "You look like hell, Pally." What Dean Martin did next, when everyone else in Hollywood had walked away, would create the friendship that defined the Rat Pack. And 37 years later, when Dean walked away himself, it would break Sinatra's heart forever. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like the video for your support. Thank you for subscribing. To understand what Dean Martin's friendship meant to Sinatra, you have to understand how far Sinatra had fallen, how completely, how publicly. 1951 was supposed to be different. Just 5 years earlier, Sinatra had been untouchable. The Voice, teenage girls screaming at the Paramount Theater, hit records, major films, money pouring in. Frank Sinatra was American music. But by 1951, it had all collapsed. The Voice went first. Vocal cord hemorrhage. May 1950, Sinatra was performing at the Copacabana in New York. Middle of a show, middle of a song. His voice just stopped. Not cracked, not weakened, gone. He walked off stage, couldn't speak, couldn't whisper. For 2 weeks, nothing. When the voice came back, it was different. Rougher, less power. The high notes, the ones that made teenage girls faint, were gone. The Voice couldn't sing anymore. Not the way he used to. Columbia Records heard the difference. They didn't renew his contract. 20 years with Columbia. Dozens of hit records. Over. MGM Studios heard it too. They had Sinatra under contract for movies, but his last few films had bombed. Box office poison. They paid him to go away. Bought out his contract. Good riddance. His agency, MCA, the biggest in Hollywood, dropped him. Not enough bookings, not enough interest. Frank Sinatra wasn't worth the commission anymore. And his marriage to Nancy, his first wife, mother of his 3 children, was over. Sinatra had left her for Ava Gardner. The divorce was ugly, public. Nancy got the house, the kids, most of his money. What was left went to Ava. Ava Gardner. MGM's most beautiful actress. Sinatra was obsessed, completely. He'd thrown away his marriage, his clean image, his family, for her. And Ava? She was in Spain, filming The Barefoot Contessa. With Luis Miguel Dominguín. Bullfighter, rich, handsome, Spanish. Everything Sinatra wasn't. The tabloids ran photos of Ava and the bullfighter, laughing, dancing, at cafes in Madrid. Sinatra was in Los Angeles, alone, broke, unemployed, reading about his wife with another man. He tried to keep working, small clubs, lounges, places that used to be beneath him. But even those bookings were drying up. Theater owners saw the vocal struggles. Audiences didn't show up. Sinatra would perform to half-empty rooms. And the audiences that did come? Some booed. Some walked out during his set. Frank Sinatra, who'd caused riots at the Paramount, was getting booed in lounges that seated 200 people. The money ran out. Fast. The divorce settlement, Ava's expenses, his own bills. By late 1951, Sinatra was borrowing money from friends, from anyone who'd lend it. His clothes didn't fit anymore. He'd lost 20 pounds, couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, just drank and smoked and called Ava in Spain at 3 in the morning, begging her to come home. She rarely answered. November 1953, 2 years into this nightmare, Sinatra would slash his wrists at the Hampshire House Hotel. Ava would find him. Blood on the floor. Cry for help. Desperation made real. But in 1951, he was still trying to pretend. Still trying to show up. Still trying to be Frank Sinatra. That's when Dean Martin found him. Dean Martin was 34 in 1951. 2 years younger than Sinatra. But while Sinatra was falling, Dean was rising. Dean had broken up with Jerry Lewis, his comedy partner, and was building a solo career. Singing, acting, that easy, relaxed style that made everything look effortless. Audiences loved Dean Martin. Hollywood loved Dean Martin. Dean was everything Sinatra used to be. Young, hot, bankable, and Dean had watched Sinatra's collapse from a distance. Watched the voice go. Watched the contracts get canceled. Watched the tabloids destroy him. Most people in Hollywood enjoyed it. Sinatra had been arrogant during his peak. Difficult, demanding, made enemies. Now those enemies were watching him fall and smiling. But Dean Martin wasn't smiling. Dean remembered something most people had forgotten. Back in the 1940s, when Dean was nobody, working small clubs in Cleveland and Atlantic City with Jerry Lewis, Sinatra had helped him. A word to a club owner here. A recommendation there. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that made headlines. Just one performer helping another. Sinatra probably didn't even remember doing it, but Dean remembered. So in late 1951, when Dean heard Sinatra was performing at a small club on Sunset Boulevard, he went. Not to gawk, not to see the mighty fallen, to help. The club was called the Copa Club, not the Copacabana in New York. This was a cheaper copy, smaller, darker, the kind of place where careers ended, not began. Sinatra was booked for 2 weeks, but by the second week, audiences had thinned. Word got around. Frank's voice is shot. Don't waste your money. Dean showed up on a Tuesday night. The club was maybe half full. Sinatra was on stage working through "I've Got You Under My Skin." The high notes, the ones that used to soar, cracked. Sinatra pushed through, professional, but the damage was obvious. A few people in the audience shifted uncomfortably. Some whispered. One couple got up and left mid-song. Sinatra saw them go. His jaw tightened, but he finished the song. After the set, Sinatra came off stage and went straight to the bar. Ordered a double Jack Daniels. Drank it standing. Stared at nothing. That's when Dean walked up. According to people present that night, Dean didn't announce himself. Didn't make a big entrance. Just slid onto the bar stool next to Sinatra. "You look like hell, Pally." Sinatra turned, saw Dean. His expression didn't change. "Yeah, thanks for the news bulletin." Dean ordered a drink. Scotch. Neat. They sat there, 2 guys at a bar. The club noise continued around them. Dean took a sip. Then, those present later recalled, he said something like, "Voice'll come back." Sinatra laughed. Bitter. "You hear that set? Voice is gone, Dean. Gone, gone." "Nah." Dean's voice was easy, conversational, like they were discussing the weather. "You're just tired, pushing too hard. Voice needs rest." "I'm not pushing too hard. I'm trying to work, trying to pay bills, trying to—" Sinatra stopped. Drank. Dean waited. Didn't fill the silence. Just waited. Finally, Sinatra said it, the thing he hadn't admitted to anyone. "I don't know if I can come back from this." Dean turned to look at him, really look. Sinatra looked awful, gaunt, exhausted, haunted. This wasn't the cocky kid from Hoboken. This was a man who'd lost everything. Dean, witnesses recalled, didn't offer empty platitudes. Didn't say it'll be fine or hang in there. Dean wasn't built that way. Instead, he said, "You will, because you're better than all of us. You just forgot." Sinatra stared at him. "I'm washed up, Dean." "You're down, not out. There's a difference." They drank. The club started to empty. The second show was canceled. Not enough audience to justify it. Then Dean made an offer. "I'm doing a show Friday, NBC, the Colgate Comedy Hour. They want me to sing a couple numbers. Come do it with me." Sinatra looked at him like he was crazy. "Dean, I just bombed in front of 50 people. You want me on national television?" "Yeah." "Why?" Dean shrugged. That easy shrug. "Because you're Frank Sinatra, and people need to remember that." Sinatra didn't answer right away. The offer was genuine. Dean wasn't joking, wasn't setting him up. He was throwing Sinatra a lifeline. But accepting it meant risk. If Sinatra bombed on national television, and his voice cracked, and the audience didn't respond, that would be it. Confirmation. Proof. Frank Sinatra is finished. But if he didn't take the chance, if he kept playing half-empty clubs until even those bookings dried up, Sinatra, those close to him later, recalled, made his decision. "Okay, Friday." Dean smiled, finished his drink, stood up, clapped Sinatra on the shoulder. "Good. Rehearsal's Thursday. Don't be late." He walked out, left Sinatra sitting at the bar. Sinatra sat there for another hour, drinking, thinking. Dean Martin, who had every reason to ignore him, to let him fade away, had just put his own reputation on the line. For what? For loyalty? For some favor Sinatra had done years ago that Sinatra didn't even remember? Maybe. Or maybe Dean just saw something in Sinatra that everyone else had stopped looking for. The belief that the voice could come back. Friday, December 14th, 1951, NBC Studios, Burbank, California. The Colgate Comedy Hour was live television. No retakes, no editing. Whatever happened on stage, America saw it. Dean Martin was the host that week. Big booking, prime time, millions of viewers, and Frank Sinatra was backstage, terrified. He'd done live television before, done national radio, done the Paramount Theater with 5,000 screaming fans. But that was 5 years ago. That was when his voice worked. Now, he was a charity case. Dean Martin's pity project. Sinatra chain-smoked in the dressing room, ran through vocal warm-ups. His voice sounded rough, tired. The high notes cracked. Someone knocked on the door. "5 minutes, Mr. Sinatra." Sinatra stubbed out his cigarette, looked at himself in the mirror. Gaunt face, dark circles, suit hanging loose. He looked like hell. But he walked out of that dressing room, down the hallway, into the wings. Dean was on stage, doing his segment, charming the audience, making it look easy. The way Dean always made it look easy. Then Dean introduced him. "Ladies and gentlemen, I want to bring out a very special friend of mine, someone who taught most of us how to sing, someone who's going through a rough patch right now. But rough patches don't last forever. Talent does. Ladies and gentlemen, Frank Sinatra." The audience applauded. Polite, uncertain. This wasn't the Frank Sinatra they remembered. Sinatra walked onto the stage. The lights hit him, bright, hot, millions watching. He and Dean sang together. "You're Nobody Till Somebody Loves You," a duet. Dean's voice, easy, relaxed, effortless. Sinatra's voice, rougher, working harder, but there. And something happened. Dean didn't make Sinatra look good by contrast. Dean made Sinatra look like an equal, a partner. He adjusted his performance to match Sinatra's energy, gave him space, backed him up when the high notes got shaky. The audience felt it. Not pity, not nostalgia, but something real. When the song ended, the applause was genuine, warm, not the screaming teenage girls of the 1940s, but real appreciation. Sinatra and Dean stood there, side by side, and for the first time in months, Sinatra didn't feel like a failure. After the show, backstage, Dean found Sinatra in the dressing room. "See? Told you." Sinatra looked at him. "Dean, thank you." Dean waved it off. "Don't mention it, Pally." But Sinatra insisted. "No, I mean it. You didn't have to do that. You—" "Frank." Dean cut him off. His voice was still easy, but there was something underneath, something serious. "We're friends. That's what friends do." And from that moment on, they were. Not just colleagues, not just performers who happened to know each other. Friends. Real friends. Dean Martin became one of the few people Sinatra trusted completely. One of the few who'd seen him at his lowest, and stayed. Over the next 2 years, Dean continued to help. Quietly. A guest spot on another show. An introduction to a producer. A word to a club owner. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that made headlines. But Dean never let Sinatra fall completely. And in March 1953, Sinatra got the role of Maggio in From Here to Eternity. The role that would win him an Oscar. The role that would resurrect his career. By 1954, Sinatra was back. Capitol Records contract, hit albums, movies, money. The comeback was complete. And when Sinatra formed the Rat Pack in 1959, the group that would define Las Vegas in the 1960s, the first call he made was to Dean Martin. Not Sammy Davis Jr., not Peter Lawford, not Joey Bishop. Dean. Because Dean had been there when no one else was. For the next 30 years, Dean Martin was Sinatra's closest friend. They performed together, vacationed together. Dean was the only Rat Pack member who could tell Sinatra no, and Sinatra would listen. Dean was the brother Sinatra never had. But friendships have limits, even the deepest ones. In 1988, Sinatra organized the Together Again tour, the ultimate event. Frank, Dean, and Sammy, one last Rat Pack reunion. Opening night was March 13, 1988, in Oakland, California. Sold out. Thousands of fans. 3 legends on stage together. But Dean's heart wasn't in it. He was 70 years old. Tired. His son had died in a plane crash 3 years earlier. Dean was drinking more. Caring less. After 4 shows, Dean walked out. Called Sinatra from his hotel room. Words to the effect of, "I can't do this anymore, Frank. I'm done." Sinatra was furious. Hurt. Betrayed. Dean went home to Los Angeles. Never performed publicly again. Sinatra continued the tour with Liza Minnelli replacing Dean. But it wasn't the same. The friendship, 37 years of loyalty, support, brotherhood, was broken. Sinatra never forgave Dean for walking out. They spoke maybe twice in the final 7 years of Dean's life. Awkward, distant. The warmth was gone. Dean Martin died on Christmas Day, 1995. Respiratory failure, age 78. Sinatra attended the funeral. Quietly, no press. But those who saw him said he cried. Real tears. For the friend who'd been there when no one else was. For the brother he'd lost twice. Once when Dean walked out. Once when Dean died. And from that day on, Sinatra was never quite the same. The Rat Pack era was truly over. The friend who'd saved him in 1951 was gone. Some friendships define you. They shape who you become. They rescue you when you're drowning. Dean Martin found Frank Sinatra in a half-empty nightclub in 1951, broken, desperate, washed up. And Dean said, "You're better than all of us. You just forgot." That belief, that loyalty, carried Sinatra through the darkest period of his life. It gave him the courage to keep trying, to accept the from here to eternity role, to fight for the comeback. The Rat Pack wouldn't exist without Dean's faith in Sinatra. The comeback wouldn't exist. The chairman might never have returned. But friendships are fragile, even the ones forged in desperation, even the ones that save your life. 37 years of brotherhood ended with a phone call and a tour that Dean couldn't finish. Sinatra had called Dean his best friend, his brother, the one who understood him. But understanding someone and being able to stay with them forever? Those are different things. Dean Martin gave Frank Sinatra the greatest gift one performer can give another: belief when no one else believed, a chance when no one else would take the risk. And Sinatra never forgot it. But he also never forgave the walking out. That's the tragedy of the Rat Pack. The brotherhood that saved Sinatra in 1951 couldn't survive 1988, because loyalty has limits. Even love has limits. Dean Martin stayed when everyone left, but he also left when Sinatra needed him most. And both things are true. Both things matter. The friendship that defined the Rat Pack started in a half-empty nightclub on Sunset Boulevard. Two guys at a bar, one falling, one rising, and the decision to help instead of walk away. That's brotherhood. That's loyalty. That's what made the Rat Pack more than just five guys on stage. But it ended the same way it began, with someone walking away. Frank Sinatra died on May 14, 1998, 2.5 years after Dean. At Sinatra's funeral, his daughter Nancy spoke, and she talked about Dean, about the friendship, about 1951. "Dad never forgot," she said, "what Dean did when nobody else would." That's legacy, not the albums, not the movies, not the sold-out shows, but the moment when one man saw another man drowning and reached out his hand.